3 years ago, I had an idea to start a podcast to share information about real estate and finance. Fast forward to today, we're almost at episode 100. We've had dozens of guest interviews from entrepreneurs, business owners, marketing agency owners, sales professionals, you name it. And the podcast, it's become much more than just a platform for sharing information. It's become a living record of my professional development and growth over the years. It's evolved with me. We rebranded in 2026 from the real estate lens to the long game, and it's become a place where I'm able to share my thought processes, my logic, and document my thinking at a particular place in time. Going from myself as a solo loan officer to now a team of 5, and sharing the trajectory of where I want to go. Pulling back the curtain from other entrepreneurs who have achieved 6, 7, 8, 9-figure companies. How are they operating? What are their secrets? What is their logic? How do they think about solving problems or growing the company? It's become a place of curiosity where I get to ask questions, get information, share new ideas, and bring this all to the people listening and watching. I'm excited for episode 100, but I'm excited for where things are going to be in the next 3 years. We have a lot in store, a lot of great topics to come, a lot of great guests, and hopefully you'll follow along with the journey. But for now, let's look back at the last 3. I always try to figure that out. Like if I was making an offer on a property, I don't get it. Like how did the other guy come to a different number, the other investor? And sometimes they use different metrics. Like they might be looking at rent by the room and I wasn't looking at it, and they've turned an opportunity into a better one than I saw. You know?
If you look at weekly stays around here and actually look into the market, you'll see that there's people coming internationally and paying $2,000 a week in this Westboro area. So there are ways to be profitable. You just have to be different, that's all.
That's a good point too, especially when the alternative is either you stay in a hotel, which is super expensive.
Yes.
You find an Airbnb, which is probably way more space than you need.
Correct.
Or you tie up a long-term apartment that you really only need for 6 months.
Yeah.
So it's like, it does fill the perfect gap between those.
Yes.
And then I know you're doing some short-term rentals as well.
Yes, that's my main project right now. That's what I focus on. I met my partners through going through the events, the real estate events. So we took over our portfolio. We doubled it over the past 6 months, actually. And it was all done because of the systems that we created to double that portfolio.
And it was midterm rentals that led you into this evolution, right?
Yes. Short-term rentals so much better, so much more profitable. I love the midterm rental space, but I enjoy the short-term rental more. It's challenging, and there's so much more for you to learn.
Yeah, I feel like, well, those are the short-term rentals, the buzzword. It always has been. After COVID, everyone saw the opportunities there. Yeah. But now, to dive into that a little bit, so you own some properties you short-term rent, and you also manage a lot of properties for other people.
We manage a lot of properties that are short-term rentals, yes.
And how does that work from your side? Because I know it's so much a customer service business.
Yes.
And I feel like a lot of times people think you can throw your home up on just the website and get rentals, but it's so much more than that.
Correct.
So talk to me about what that looks like for you. What does your company do for people, and how do you help them make more money?
So what's important is that you have a good cleaner, a good cleaning team as well too. So we have great partners Matt, he does our Cape Cod cleaning. He has a team of 20 people. They do really, really good for us, and we have a handyman as well too that does a great job for us as well too. So I've been asked, hey Sam, can you come out to this area, go out to this area? And I've declined. I wouldn't go out to Worcester and start fresh over there with a new team. If I can't find a good cleaner or a good handyman, I am not expanding to that area. You cannot, your reputation is very important, and quality control is very important as well too, right? Your cleaner needs to know how you work, right? Every turn that there is, they should be taking pictures of anything that's damaged. If something goes wrong, they need to let me know so we can fix it. Right, we need to get rid of Airbnb, damages, insurance if anything goes wrong, right? So it's very critical that your cleaner is on the same page, and they can do 7 days a week, Sunday, same day turnovers. If I can find cleaners like that in other markets, I'll take them, I'll grow. Otherwise, we're gonna grow in the market that we can be sustainable and have good quality control.
And you feel like that's the difference between your company and just an average owner, is they just don't keep the consistency there?
Yeah, I think they struggle multiple factors. A, they're probably trying to do what they did in the past with those weekly rentals. Yes, it works for some, but this year has been very slow with the bookings, especially over the summer. And also, they think they can just manage it all themselves. When your bookings are slow, what other avenue are you going to take? My best advice is hire experts. Find an expert. Find somebody that's going to help you, right? If you need advice on how to do short-term rentals in North Carolina, you're not going to just call somebody in Massachusetts. Find someone local that knows that market that can help you with that project, right?
But my 3 metrics that I use, number 1, is what we call the 1% rule. If you haven't heard of this metric, it's one of the golden rules in multifamily investing. It gives you a very quick look at whether or not a property can produce monthly cash flow. The 1% rule essentially states that the pro forma rents on the property should be equivalent to at least 1% of the property's value. Let's put some numbers to that. So let's say, for example, you're looking at $1 million property. Well, I know for me, if the monthly rent roll is not at least $10,000 a month, it's probably not an opportunity that I want to look at. I'm interested in properties that produce a lot of cash, give me a high return on my cash that's invested. So there needs to be a lot of income there relative to the price. If it passes at least that sniff test, then I can go deeper into the numbers. Does the landlord pay the utilities? Do they have external trash? Are they paying their own trash? Get into the nuts and bolts of the deal to see if it really makes sense. But if the monthly rent roll is not at least 1% of the price, I'm clicking on to the next property. Because a lot of times real estate investors get distracted. And if you're listening to this, you're probably one of those people. You see a deal online, it looks from the pictures like a nice property, and you start underwriting the deal. You're going through your spreadsheets, you're putting in all the data, and you ultimately find out that the price they're asking for the property isn't worth it for your metrics. Now, I know for me, I want at least 15% cash on cash return. So for me to get that objective, I would need to find a property that produces a lot more than the 1% rule. But by using that as my baseline, I can weed out a lot of the opportunities that I'd otherwise waste my time analyzing. So it's an easy one to take a look at. Now, obviously, if you're someone who's investing in a different market than I am, that number is totally different. For example, if you're a Boston-based investor, that could be a pretty difficult number to achieve. Typically the higher value, higher appreciation markets have lower rent to price ratios. So something to keep in mind, your numbers, your investment philosophy could be different. Is the real estate market going to crash? Well, to answer that question, we have to first understand some of the market dynamics that impact pricing. What impacts the value of a home? Well, it's really 2 things, supply and demand. Now, fundamentally, over the last few years since COVID, and I can't believe we're still even talking about COVID, but I'm sure we will for many years to come, the market dynamics have been very different in various areas of the country. The Northeast specifically has had some very different market dynamics than a lot of the Midwest and Southern states. Ultimately, I don't believe that in the Northeast we're going to see a significant crash like we did in 2008. Now keep in mind, in 2008, real estate values declined by over 30%. That I don't expect to happen up here in the Northeast. And to understand why, we have to understand how it works. So keep in mind, in 2008, part of the reason that the real estate market crashed was twofold. Number 1, the market was flooded with supply. The quality of mortgages back then were not nearly at the standard that we're giving today. And ultimately, a lot of people took adjustable rate mortgages. They qualified off of income that they didn't necessarily have or that was overstated. And when the mortgage payments really kicked in, they couldn't afford the house. And this happened all at once. It was a snowball effect of people listing their house on the market, people going into foreclosure, and short sales, people selling the house for less than they owed in their mortgage because they couldn't make the payments, whether it adjusted or the income figures they stated on the application were overstated. A lot of times they weren't verified by the banks, and it was just presumed that you were honest with your application and you can pay the mortgage. But that obviously didn't happen. So we had a massive influx in supply. At the same time, because of all of the foreclosures and short sales, a lot of banks stopped lending money. So it was very difficult during the crash to go out and buy real estate. So demand was elevated because there was a lot of new activity, a lot of new deals on the market, but it was difficult to go get the capital to buy them. So we were in this tough position where a lot of people were selling their homes because they couldn't afford the loans, and banks, because they're realizing they gave out some, unfortunately, not quality loans, they don't want to lend anymore. So new buyers had difficulty getting financing. There was a culmination of these two things at once at scale that led to significant declines in the real estate market very quickly. Now, the difference today is twofold. Number one, the quality of mortgages have significantly increased. We go through a much more thorough due diligence process to validate your income, verify the numbers, and we now reference a universal set of guidelines that are based upon a sound logic that ensures the people who are taking the loans actually have the ability to repay them. And if you are taking out adjustable rate mortgages, we have set a lot of parameters around how much that rate can move, when it can move, and have implemented a lot of caps in terms of the maximum amount your mortgage payment can go up to make sure that people can continue to pay their mortgages in the future. And there are a lot of assistance programs as well now that help with making your mortgage payments and whatnot. So we've changed quite a bit from terms of the quality of mortgages today. So if you get a mortgage today, very likely that the qualification standards that your lender has set are in some shape or form making sure that you can pay that mortgage. That's part one, is mortgages are very different. So I don't foresee a large flood of foreclosures coming. I think a lot of the mortgages that are given today are quality, and I don't expect people to need to sell because they can't pay the mortgages at scale. Of course, foreclosures always happen in any market. There's always some statistic that a percentage of mortgages default on the payments. But that's not a wide-scale trend that I'm seeing coming.
When you're in that first year of going from $0 to $100,000 in revenue, that's a very pivotal point. And the skill set you need to master and the resources you need to lean on during that phase are so different than when you get to the next phase. Because inevitably in that first phase, the things that are most important and drive the needle the most are your ability to convey your value to your end customer. And which means you need to improve your knowledge. You need to really dive deep on your business, figure out how can I be an expert in my field? Because once you build that knowledge base, it's a lot easier to convey to consumers to be able to solve the types of problems you're looking to solve. Your value proposition is directly rooted in how much you believe in it. One, in how important the problem is that you're solving, but two, in your ability to do that. I think that's where a lot of times people say fake it until you make it, which I think there's some truth to it, but it's more so sit from a seat of confidence. Like you might not have done 1,000 transactions or helped 1,000 customers, but be confident that you've built your skill set up enough to the point where in your mind, you've already done 1,000, even though you haven't, but you're so confident in who you are and what your business does and your ability to execute that you talk from a position of I've done that many transactions, or I am tenured, I am qualified. So it's building the personal skills, the business skills, and enhancing your knowledge to ultimately drive revenue. You're in the networking phase, starting to meet some players in the industry. Who are some other people I can meet and talk to? You're going to all the networking events, like you're just doing work. At that point in the game, input equals output. How much work can I do? How much time can I put into this? How busy can I stay? The busier you stay, the more content you consume, the more money you make. That's how it works at that point in the game. I'm going to 10 networking events in the next 10 days. And I'm going to take all of those contacts and follow up with them and schedule coffee meetings and grow my network, grow my business. I'm going to post on social media. I'm going to knock doors. Like that's the input phase. You don't have business. All of your activities are generating business. You're just putting in a ton of work. You don't have any employees. You don't have anyone to delegate to. You don't have systems. Your goal is to chase. You're the dog in the field. You see the ball. You're like, I'm going to go get the ball. And it's interesting because once you go through that phase and say you hit that, whatever the number is, $100,000 in revenue, or the point, I like to call it the tipping point, the point at which you realize you have no more time because now you've got the business. You have business coming in that you have to now manage, but you still have to do everything else. You still have to do the marketing and the networking and all the stuff you were doing before that was easier when you didn't have any revenue, right? You didn't have any business to deal with coming in, but now you do.
What I learned even from my, first rental property, it's like I bought a 5-unit, had enough book knowledge. Like I was definitely read all the books.
Yeah.
Like
Like being in finance, you would be like,
yeah, exactly. Like I read enough to know, okay, I got this. Yeah. But then I jumped into it. I'm like, oh my God, like there are so many things I don't know the answer to. Like, how do I deal with this eviction? Why the gas company is shutting off gas? Like, how do I figure this out? And as I kept going, I realized like the people that I was calling to get answers to, like sometimes they'd be like, I'll find out. And like they go get an answer. Yeah. So they're all still doing the same thing. It's just different problems.
100%.
And you get over that fear of you're not going to have all the information. You just need the right people. But I love that you found that in your role because I think it's so important. Something I try to do all the time.
Yeah, me too. And I feel like you could not have said it better because real estate is that way. Like it's different than other industries. I feel like because we are in a niche community that does it this way, but people just want to talk about it. Like they love it. And actually, like along what you're saying too, CJ Moss just prescribed me to read Who Not How, which is...
I read that.
Did you read it?
Yeah.
Did you like it?
Great book.
I'm like...
Reframes your mind.
Yeah. I'm like 3/4 in and it's so good.
You like it? Yeah, it's a good book.
It's a good book. And like, it's saying exactly what you just said, like to leverage those relationships because they can leverage you and you can leverage them. And you're never going to have the same strong suit exactly as someone else. So I totally agree.
Yeah. Because I feel like there's almost... I don't know if stigma is the right word, but there's definitely like this false perception around like collaboration and partnership. Like when you're early on in your career, I noticed it even like looking back, even from earlier episodes I've done, years ago and just like my journey. I see it in other people too, but there's always like the question of like, oh, I don't want to partner with someone on this deal.
Yeah.
Or like, I don't want to collaborate with this person to get the answer or to find the solution, create a better system, whatever the thing is. But then once you get over that, you're like, oh my God. Like this is so much better. We can do so much more, so much faster. And you can only do so much by yourself. So I can't, that book actually changed my mindset where I read it a few years ago. I read a bunch of books like that. Who Not How to Buy Back Your Time. Yeah. All really good books. But that was me a couple of years ago. It was just me. Like I was doing all the loans. Managed all my properties myself. I did all my flips. Like I was somewhat GCing them, like half involved. Now, totally different. Like now I have a team of 5 people. I have a property manager. Couldn't imagine if someone took it all away today. Yeah. I would be shell shocked.
Yeah. Like look at this now. Like there's so many people. You have a huge, like beautiful office. Like that none of that I'm sure would have been possible. But I am curious because I feel like a lot of people in our space are the way you describe, which is like you kind of want to do it all yourself. And in a way it's like it has a lot of grit to it and it's a very respectable thing. But to level up, of course, it's known you can't do that. Did it come easy to you? Or was it like a big, like, okay, I'm reading this book and now I need to like implement some changes?
That's a good question. So to answer to your first point, I think you have to do it first. So like when I first started the podcast, I filmed everything. I edited everything. I posted everything. Same with the loan. Like I didn't have a loan assistant for years. I didn't even have a processor really, which is crazy. Like most people at least have a processor, but I did everything. Dang. But let me learn the whole process. So then when I went to offload, I knew exactly what I was looking for because I understood the process. And also it's, a capital thing too, but of course it costs money and that's part of it. But I think just from a matter of understanding the process, there's such a value in going through it yourself first. But when you ask me, is it relative to a book or timing? Timing is the hardest part. I don't think there's ever too early of a time to start like delegating tasks. I think it's just figuring out the most important tasks to delegate that will help you focus on better tasks. How would you give some advice to someone who's like, where do I start? Like, how do I make my employees want to work for me?
You eat last. That's how. You eat last. They eat first. You do for them. It's not that I hate people that are like, they work for me. Like we're a team. Nobody works for me. They work for the practice. I think that mentality in an entrepreneur is such a turnoff. And who would want to work for somebody like that? So I think I truly, like, they all make more money than me. They all go to training before I do. I give them opportunity before I try to give myself opportunity. And I think that is what keeps them working hard and understanding that this is really about all of us. It's not about me. It has nothing to do with me. So I think, taking the ego and the self out of it and understanding that this isn't like the Jamie show. This is 111 RX and we're here for patients. So it's a service industry.
Absolutely. And have there been situations where you felt like you had to kind of course correct the culture? Because that's something I'm learning where sometimes I find, and it's usually a reflection of me. Like, okay, I recognize maybe there's something that's not that it's bad culture, but I notice some trends that are going in a different direction. Like, how can I course correct that? Were there any instances where you feel like you almost had to pivot yourself back to kind of the fundamentals of the leadership? Because it's an active growing thing where I think sometimes people think, like, if I hold a meeting every week, like that's leadership. And that's a part of it.
Right.
But it's the evolution of curating that culture.
Totally. I think that owning a business forces it shines a light on all the parts of you that need improvement, because you can't like mentor or do for somebody else until you've really worked on that on yourself. And I will share something with you guys that was hard for me, but in the last week, I actually had one of my team come to me and bring up a few shortcomings of my own that really need to be worked on. And at first I was bullshit. Like, I was so pissed. I'm like, how dare you? But again, that's that ego, right? Like, I'm lucky that someone feels confident enough to say to me, I think you could be better in these ways, and it would be better for the practice. And I had to like walk away. I had to sit on it. I had to think about it. And she's 100% right. And it was hard because those are my shortcomings. So I think it's constant evolution of not only yourself, but your practice or your business.
Absolutely. Was that feedback you were expecting? Was that an open conversation, or they came to you first?
It was on the heels of just a rough week for me. And I think she felt like she could incite some wisdom where maybe I wasn't able to see it just in the state of mind I had been in. So I was really lucky to have her approach me in that way.
It's a powerful thing to have that confidence instilled in your employee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
That's great.
Yeah.
I think that it's a reflection of everything that you've worked over for the past, 5 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't get someone to that point typically unless they do trust and they're bought in, because they're not telling you that to critique you.
Right.
They're telling you that to help the general mission.
Exactly.
So that's a cool thing.
And she had said, like, I think this would help things in the office. Like, it wasn't personal. It wasn't about me or her. It was really about like how I could improve. And I think that sometimes we all have our blind spots, right? So this was one that I needed to have the light shown on.
You just saw my podcast and called me and said, hey, I could pick your brain. I was like, yeah, sure.
Love that, dude.
Yeah, great.
That's cool.
Great. So we were talking about business, and he's like, I need to hire someone, and I've got I got a transaction coordinator. I've got a virtual assistant helping with marketing, but I need something. And we were going back and forth. And I think one of the problems a lot of times people have is, where do you draw the line on what core task you should do versus someone else? How did you navigate that? And especially with multiple businesses, right? Like, if you only have 12 hours in a day, maybe 14 hours in a day, you can't possibly touch every task. So how do you draw the line of, okay, these are my tasks or my responsibilities versus I need to find someone great to take care of the rest?
It's a challenge. It's another one of those challenges where every single day I'm figuring out what core tasks make the most sense for me. I think what tasks are most urgent and which tasks are going to produce the highest results in that set moment as to where I need to focus my attention. Other ones, I can offload. I have Maddie Parvey as an assistant, as an agent partner who does a lot of the showings, a lot of the inspections, a lot of the open houses, right? Those tasks may not be best suited for me, but the larger ones where I'm negotiating and writing the contracts, I'm then negotiating after inspections, possibly there for a particular client who has an inspection, right? So we have 15 units under agreement in Southbridge, and I absolutely need to be there. Sure. I am, representing the buyer and the seller, so I need to understand exactly what everyone is seeing in this transaction to be able to communicate that fully. I can rely on Maddie for that, yes, but that is a very highly oriented task where there's $2.2 million on the line for either client, right? A big investment. And then there's also a large commission there, but it's also reputation. And how am I serving those individuals, right?
Right.
I need to be there. And
it's more involved with the type of property, and of course.
And sometimes, it's a matter of what you are best at. You figure out what you are best at, right? I'm not best at sending emails, but my mother certainly could be, or actually Marama certainly could be compared to me.
Sure.
Yeah.
What do you do when something comes your way that you shouldn't handle? Do you innately I know you're probably your answer, you just deal with it, or do you actually send it to where it should go?
Again, I think it depends on the urgency.
Yeah.
If I'm in the moment and I have that split second where I can do it, I just do it.
You just do it.
And I think it's because that's how it's always been bred in me, where if something comes up, take care of it right away. If someone texts you, respond right away, right? Don't wait, because I'm finding with the limited time that I have after having a daughter 4 months ago, and we have 2 under 2, is that time is really of the essence when it's of the essence. Because if you have 3 split minutes where you have something you need to address, take care of that in the moment, because you may have a kid pulling your leg 2 minutes later.
Unpredictable, right?
Unpredictable. It's very unpredictable. Or, Sonny's climbing on a coffee table and he's trying to jump off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, you got to jump into the moment and be like, I'm here, I'm there. But it's funny. I remember a podcast, and I'm trying to think who it was, but they said the wealthiest people in the world respond the quickest.
It's true.
And because they know how important time is, rather than letting it go by the wayside and them thinking, oh my God, I have to respond to this message. I have to respond to this message all day. It takes up headspace. They just get it, respond, boom, done.
I saw something similar. I think it was actually Bruno who put up a post about it online, and it was very similar, but it's like, if you want something done or you need a quick answer, call the busiest person you know.
Yeah.
And that's truthfully, like, with how you operate, I know if you've got all these things going on, but I know you'll always answer.
Yeah.
And if it's something important relative to the business, like, of course, right away.
Yeah.
And I think I've noticed it across the board, even with everything that we do, but especially in the contracting space, like hit or miss sometimes, but the people who really take pride in their business and have a lot of jobs, they'll get back to you quickly.
Away.
You want a quote, they'll come tomorrow, they'll send it the same day. You need us out next week, they'll be there.
Yeah.
And it's because I think they understand that the power of urgency.
Yep.
And that's one thing I've realized through doing this show that is almost innate maybe to someone like you and I, but not to everyone. Like, people draw out 5-year plans. I mean, I have an idea of where I want to go, but I'm worried about how fast can I do the things that are in front of me.
Right.
And it was funny. I was talking on the way home last night. I was talking to someone driving home, and we were talking about the idea of urgency. And I was like, well, sure, I could rub 2 sticks together and figure out how to grow and scale an organization. But why would I rub 2 sticks when there's gasoline? It's like, why wouldn't I, maybe get that mentor, get that coach, or whatever you need to put that extra boost on your business. Yeah. Let's do it in 6 months. Why wait 12?
Why? Yeah.
There's no pride in dragging yourself through the trenches,